People who only instruct, that's also very dangerous because they stop to see the real diving. They just go, the skill sets and whatever you have to teach. And they're probably spectacular at teaching those skills, but they forget the reality.
Off-Gassing, a scuba podcast with host Nick Hogel. I first met Farzad Atefi, better known as Faz, while cave diving in South Sulawesi, Indonesia. Within the first few minutes of meeting, it was apparent the love he has for the sport. A friendship was formed as we navigated our way through overhead environments, followed by engaging conversations while enjoying beverages. It was great to have Faz on the podcast to catch up, even better to hear about his experiences, goals, and unfiltered thoughts when it comes to the industry. Please enjoy. Faz, how are you doing today, man?
Awesome, Nick. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great honor and pleasure.
Yeah, no. I'm glad that we finally were able to schedule a date. So for all you listeners out there that don't know, I actually met you, what was that, like 3 months ago?
Oh, 3 months ago. Yeah,
3 months ago, doing
flies.
some overhead cave diving in beautiful Indonesia. So it's great to have you on the podcast. And
thank you very much.
yeah, no, thank you for making the time, and I'm excited to hear more about the things that you're doing down there and just hear more about your journey in general. So my first question I wanted to ask you, I always like to ask, is tell me how and why you became a diver. Tell me about that first breath underwater.
Cool. So I answered this first with why I became a diver so late. The reason being, I grew up in Austria and my brother started diving there back in the day, like probably 25 years ago. And still the old, system where he went to the pool once a week for a whole uni semester, blah, 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 blah. And he always told me how great it is and come and do it. And then he had his checkout dives, right? So his open water dives, so-called. And the first thing I noticed, he has this humongous wetsuit, which was a two-piece 10 mil. Like 10 mil, can you imagine that? Two-piece, right? And then he came back from the week and said, awesome. As soon as you hit the thermocline, the water goes down to 4 degrees and you can't see anything. It's like black ink. That was so awesome. And I'm thinking to myself, you're crazy, man. You're a lunatic. Who wants to do that, right? This is horrible. So that's why I never started diving at a young age. I thought it's going to be just, cold and miserable. And I was never a sand beach type of person. I mean, I loved the water. I spent days in the pool and stuff like that, but I was never a friend of salt. Let's put it this way. So anyway, so fast forward like many, many moons later, we went to Indonesia. We went to Gili with friends, and she's like a holiday diver. She's like, they're Austrian both. She's a holiday diver. She said she's going to go for a dive. I was like, oh, cool, interesting. And he doesn't do diving, but he's a very he loves snorkeling. He said, like, let's go for a snorkel, guys. And I was like, really? Like, masks and snorkels and you get water in your mouth, and isn't that horrible? And I said, dude, the technology has changed. Like, the masks today are really comfy and blah, blah, blah. So long story short, we went for a snorkel from a boat. It was absolutely awesome. Like, absolutely loved it. We saw turtles, of course, in Gili. So I came back to Adelaide and we went straight to a dive shop. I bought some, like, a decent mask and fins. And I asked them, like, I want to go snorkeling, but I want to have the opportunity to upgrade if I like. So I did that till the end of the summer. And then next spring, I did my course. I did my open water course. It was absolutely horrible. So I thought during the open water section that I'm going to die. I didn't see my instructor. I had a sack rate of, I think, 30 or something crazy. Like, I was just gulping it down. Like, Then, so I did my open water, but I thought, like, I have to persist. then I did a wreck dive after that, and that was pretty cool. That started to get me hooked. Then I did my advanced open water straight away, of course, as you do, right?
How did you end up in Australia from Austria?
Oh, okay. So my now wife and I, we both decided we need to, see the world a little bit, and we applied for PhDs here. So we both had a PhD scholarship, and we came here in the early 2000s to do our PhDs, and we're still here, man. Loving it here.
Cool.
we never officially moved to Australia, but I guess after 20 years, we've got a house, and we're pretty settled here. But it just came as it was not planned that we stayed that long, but we've been now in our third city here. So we started in Brisbane and did Melbourne, and are now in Adelaide. And love it here. So
okay, cool. And then you said you did a wreck dive after your open water. What was the wreck dive?
So it's the dredge. It's our house wreck here in Adelaide. It lies at the sand is on the low tide 18 and on the high tide 20. Okay. So it's a perfect open water. So when I started diving here, I always thought reef is the easy dive and wreck is the hard dive. But here it's the other way around usually. Because usually the viz is crap, and we don't have, we have 5-6 meters average. That's our normal viz, right? And then with the wreck, you have a structure, so it's easy to navigate and find your way out and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the reefs, especially around Adelaide, they are just maybe half a meter or something. So shit. it's like more like ledges. They can be long, so it's the old coastline. So when the water level, so it's basically the reef here is where the water level used to be like many, many thousands of years ago, okay? So that's that ledge there. And they are gorgeous, like it's absolutely beautiful. But when you start out and you don't have navigational skills 0 and 5-6 meter V's and stuff like that, it's hard, it's really... and we don't have fixed moorings, so it's all anchor line. So you drop down the anchor line. The anchor is never where it's supposed to be, and even if the anchor is out 10 meters, if you're on a reef, you swim to the reef, and then it's hard to find your way back to the anchor line if you don't know what you're doing. Whereas with the wreck, anchor is next to the wreck, and it's easy to navigate. So wreck dives here are usually easier to do. Interestingly,
what's an average water temperature there?
Now we've got 21, which is pretty warm for December already. So I'm assuming we will get this year 22, 23. So that's all Celsius. Sorry, I can't do.
No, all good.
I don't do Fahrenheit and inches and stuff like that.
I've gotten away from it. Don't worry about it. I've gotten away from it. So Fahrenheit, feet.
What? Yeah. Okay, so that's summer, and winter it can get down to 12.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's pretty cool.
It is. So for me personally, I dive dry as long as the problem is in summer it can get hot outside. So we get 40, 45. So it can get really hot, and especially we've got lots of shore and jetty dives, and the jetty is 200, 300 meters. Walking that down with a dry suit, once I'm in the water, I always want my dry suit. I'm always 22 degree is not wetsuit temperature for me.
Me neither.
Yeah. But when it's 40 degrees outside, then you have to make those compromises because you just completely over. From the boat, it's okay because you just put it on in the last second, right? But if you do shore dives, then I reluctantly change to wetsuit when it's really hot.
We were just kind of chatting about it. I was just in Indo, and it was warm over there. The water,
beautiful.
There was one day the water, I think it was reading 32. It was so warm.
Wow.
And I tried to do a dry suit. I brought my dry suit. The first half of it, I was okay, I need to get in, do the dry suit, get some time on the breather, get some time in the dry suit. And halfway through, I was like, fuck no, dude, I gotta do a wetsuit. It was just too much. But either way, we'll get
32
back to that in a second.
Yeah, 32.
And then you did the wreck dive, and then onto your advanced.
Advanced, yeah. So I did my advanced. I pulled myself, I remember to this day. So as I said, we don't have fixed moorings, we have the anchor lines, and our deep dive for the advanced was to a wreck at 28, 29 meters, and you have this green water, and the anchor line just goes into nothing, right? I don't know if you know that, but like you see the chain disappearing. And I remember pulling myself down, still breathing like, a moron, and thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? And then I went to Indo for, like, it was Christmas. We went to Lembongan, stayed in Lembongan, and I dove Penida, of course, and I got completely, so my first dive was Manta Point. So I don't know how many mantas. And then I was completely, I nearly killed myself in Crystal Bay because, down current and gas consumption horrible. And, you're an advanced diver, right? You think you are, you're an advanced diver like me. Top of the world. Yeah. 12 dives or 15 dives in and no, you're not. So that was, I was in a down current at 27, 28 meters and completely, and I'm watching the needle go from the SPG just going, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die here. And all the good things. But I was hooked, man. I was completely hooked. And for a long time, I thought mantas are something completely normal, right? You see that everywhere. No, you don't. Yeah. But
That's funny.
But and then I came back. Yeah, and then I started to slowly. It's really hard finding decent instructors, man. That. It's really hard. Especially if you don't know anything about diving, right? I didn't have anybody around me. My brother stopped diving 15, 20 years ago, and he never progressed really far. So I had nobody around me who's a diver. And you look at the web pages and the internet and all that stuff and everything, all the courses, they describe, it's all the same, right? So, how do you know? How do you know? And then you see on Facebook or on YouTube, you see people, you have to choose your instructor. But if you go to a dive shop, you can't choose your instructor. You enroll for a course and you don't know who's going to rock up that day. So, it took me then a while, actually. I found some YouTube videos and saw people Achim, Inner Space Explorers and stuff like that, how they dive. And I was like, this is what I want. This is how you should look like. I knew this is the correct way. But I thought you have to be God to dive like that. I thought you have to have 10,000 dives and 20 years under your belt.
I mean, I'll full on admit, I would have to probably think about it, because as I was progressing, especially from advanced or open water to advanced, I kind of did it, I did just the way that it worked out. It was open water, I did rescue, and then advanced. But even at that point, and my advanced was my third course that I took, I don't think that I really had a concept of how to choose an instructor, right? I didn't even know, like you were saying, you just show up to the shop, hey, I want to take this course. They pair you up with an instructor. Obviously these days it's different because I know more, but did you have an idea of there has to be a better way? I need to search for an instructor, or was it kind of how did you find out that you needed to, just because of the videos that you were searching for? Or
so really it took me, I still think I suck at it, but look, it took me a long time to figure out that just because you're allowed to teach something, you don't have to be good at it. No, seriously. So no, it was actually when I started. So I did a lot of training with horrible people, really people who shouldn't be teaching it. And mainly when I started doing cave and I did my IDC, after a while I had this dual thing going on where I have my, when I decided I'd do my dive master and stuff like that, I realized you can't just do a course. I want to do a course with you next week, Nick, and you're going to laugh at me, look at your calendar and say, how about in 6 months? So I have this dual thing going on where I have courses that I want to do for my professional diving and courses that I want to do for my private diving. And I've always got I at least know the next one. So when one doesn't work out, I
go.
Yeah. So when I was doing, I did my dive master, my basic cave, which is my cavern. I started to work in a dive shop, and then I realized what's really happening. And then when I did my IDC, that was a crazy eye-opener. Seriously? really. So I did my IDC and then I did my full cave that same year. And that's like through cave diving, man, I've met people like Robin in Sulawesi or Patrick, like real professional instructors and divers, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree for sure.
And
like
that's like my cave instructors, explorers, and like they know what they're talking about. Robin, when he teaches a class, man, like he that's experience. He teaches people how to survive in a cave. It's not about skills, right? So meeting those people made me realize, okay, this is what it should be like. But mainly through cave training, where you spend a week with an instructor, and it's not like you rock up in the morning to the shop, but it's like you start the day and you do land drills and you theory and you do in-water drills, and afterwards you come back and then you do gear and then you watch your videos and then you talk through dinner and then fall asleep because you're so tired, and then the next day again. And that's for me what dive training should be, because like, you know, those 4 dive courses, half an hour each, 20 minutes each, 25 minutes each.
I think it's like 20 minutes minimum they have to be.
Minimum.
At what point did you know that you wanted to pursue the professional side of diving? Was that something kind of always in the back of your mind from when you started?
I'm a horrible chess player. I can't think, like, I don't think what happens in 2 years' time. I don't care. I'm a here and now and next week and maybe 2 weeks. So like, you know, we booked flights to Austria for Easter this year, like in April. That's half a year ago, half a year down. Like that's for us, unbelievably commitment. Like I'm not like that usually. So I did solo, and I was working in a shop. I was not working in a shop, but I was hanging around a shop. Like, you know how you dive shop and you just hang out there. And basically it started out with, so I hate asking people for things that I could do myself. I love asking people for help and advice if it's above my pay grade, right? I hate also inventing the wheel. So if I have somebody who's like way more experienced than me, I ask you for help. I don't feel ashamed. But I remember I was diving like, you know, 4 or 5 times a week, and you had to come and fill gas. And I had to always ask somebody, can you please fill my cylinders? I started to hate that because, you know, I watched them and I'm like, I can do that myself. I don't need anybody to do that. And I like asked the owner, dude, like, can I fill my cylinders? And he was like, blah, and you don't work here and you're not a professional and liability insurance and blah, 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 all that. So it's like okay. Then I guess I become a dive master now, so that I can feel. Basically, really, it was down that I didn't have a rescue by then, so I had solo, I think, but I didn't have a rescue. Like I never thought about doing professional stuff. So why do you need a rescue course, right? If you don't want to become a pro. So I did my rescue course just for my dive master course, like literally. Sunday finished, Sunday afternoon we went back to the shop and I officially signed in for the dive master course. That was why I did it. So then I started guiding and I started working in another shop and, you know, on the boat and stuff like that. And basically I realized that this is horrible. Like I want to teach people properly. Then I have to give people what I never got. And I can be a horrible instructor because you spend days with me. Like I don't let you go. Like I'm exhausted and I apologize to some of my students who I see in their eyes are dead after a day with me. I'm really, really sorry, but I can't just do mediocre, or I have to, like, you book me in for a day. For me, a day is a day. It's not 5 hours or it's the whole day. That's what I love about technical training and cave training. You spend the time with your instructor. So if you have time, we spend it in the water. I remember in the shop where I used to teach, everybody finished the pool session at 12:01. So we start at 8, 9 in the morning. And I never finished an open water course before 4:30 in the afternoon. Never. Even with one student. They paid for the day. The pool was ours. It's like our pool. Clearly they are not perfect. What does it say? Mastery. Clearly they are not masters. Like, you know, I can fail myself on the hovering skill, let alone every student. Like, you know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Do you find it, because you don't know what you don't know, obviously, right? Going in, and you know, especially this day and age where everything is such a quick return, that instant gratification, do you find yourself having kind of to explain what you're saying? Like, why is your course taking till 4:30 where these people are done at 12? And to try to get that across, there's more to it than just the 20-minute dives. Like,
so the cool thing is, if you have entry-level divers, they don't know either, right? They only think they have only seen my course, right?
That's very valid. No, that's very true. I didn't even think about it like that.
I've never had, like, I have, obviously I know, because I live in Adelaide, all my working is mostly in Adelaide, so it's a very small community. Most of my students, or a lot of them I know, I see, nobody ever told me, hey Faz, why did your course take so long? We could have done it. Like, nobody has complained about that. On the contrary, so I've got students who are starting their cave journey. I've got one student who I did his buoyancy course, who's a full cave diver now. And I like to think, like, you know, I know I'm delusional. I like to think I had something to do with that. You know what I mean? I hope that I'm teaching them somehow decent. And I can only hope that they get the instruction that I often didn't receive. But I'm also very much aware that I'm like a baby, especially in the tech world. And I need to learn so much more and get so much more experience myself. But hey, that's okay.
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, that person that takes that short course, not many people are aware like you were, right? Like, hey, there's probably more to this. I feel like when you have those instructors that it is a lot longer of a day and you're getting more thorough training, I feel like you leave that session or that experience, you appreciate it a lot more after the fact, rather than like leaving a course and almost forgetting everything right after the course because it was so quick. It was so like, yeah, you're good. Boom. Next skill.
Yeah, you're awesome. High five.
You know?
Yeah, like, oh yeah.
Whereas like, no, I got that. I had to do that skill 400 times when we were in the water. Yeah. And now I could do it with my eyes closed. You know.
But I mean, look, I'm starting to appreciate, not that I necessarily support it, but they are the people who go once a year diving to the tropics, and they will always dive with the dive pro, right? They will always have somebody holding their hands, setting their gear up or checking their gear for them, all that sort of stuff. I necessarily am not a big fan of that, because I think it does a lot of damage to the environment, especially to the reefs and wrecks and stuff like that, which we all love. And if you have somebody who dives once a year, your skill level is going to be where it is. But I understand that a lot of the industry lives off that, right?
Yeah.
So I probably have also had students that didn't dive because my training was too thorough. Like, didn't continue diving because they're like, oh, this is way too hard. I don't want to do that. And that fills me a little bit with sadness, of course, because as I tell all my students, I need cave buddies, man. I need you to progress through the ranks and come cave diving. so I want more divers, and I want good, skilled, and decently trained divers with a decent mindset.
That is such a tough thing to, I don't want to say it's a tough thing to admit, but like you just said, there is a lot of that in the industry where people, they're just the holiday divers and they just want to go on vacation, maybe those 1 or 2 times a year. I completely commend that. I get that. But it's like, I definitely feel like there should be, I guess, more of a thorough interview process between the instructor and the student, you know? And some instructors, I'm sure you do that. You're like, hey, let's sit down, let's chat. Like you're saying, it's a full day thing. Let's chat about where you want to go, what you want to do, even in an open water setting, right? Because, you know, working in Austin, Texas, the majority of divers that you meet there that are training, they're just like, hey, I'm going on spring break to Cozumel in Mexico. Mm-hmm. We're going to be down there. We're going to be partying all week. I have a buddy. He's a diver. He told me I could get certified. And that's it for them. They don't want it. That small percentage will move forward, and they're like, hey, I fucking love this. Let's do more. Let's train more. Let's see how far we can take this. And it is kind of a tough thing to navigate for sure.
It is super hard. And like when I used to work in the shop, it's super hard because obviously what the shop wants is not necessarily. So I want students who come and I want to take them through, right? I want to have students that I train with, and I'm happy to start from scratch and take them as far as I can take them. And then pass them over to instructors that I know and I trust and let them go further, right? That's what I want. But I know shops, for example, that don't want technical divers, because technical divers know what they want. They do what they want to do. Or cave divers, right? They do what they want to do. They have access to their own, stuff. So I know a shop that does a thing and does it very good. Like they do boat dives, and in winter they go away on holidays and blah, 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 blah. So they want to keep all their divers at that level, right? That's the perfect level. They buy a new wetsuit every year and a new set of rigs every, 3 years or whatever, right? And in the meantime, they let it all, and it works for the shop. And I understand that, man. That's the business model. And that's how it works, right? So you know how it is. Like you do a course, I teach you something. You are not great at those skills. You're acceptable, or you know how to do them, but you're not good. So I want my student to, after the course, go out and practice those skills, right? Or go diving. Just go diving. At entry level, just go diving and go and practice. And then once you are really good at what I taught you at the last course, I want you to come back and then you take the next course. So like even at open water level, people would ask me, hey, when do you want me to take my advance? And I was like, go dive a bit. Like, do at least 20 dives, 25 dives. Whereas the shop, why didn't you sign them up straight away? Like, they might go to the shop down the road or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but that's not good for, like, you know what I mean? So it's really tough. It's a tough gig. It's a tough industry.
No, it's a weird, like at the end of the day, it's one big family, but we got to accept everybody, right? And their business well, not everybody, I guess, but either way.
But you moved to Malaysia or Australia to have the correct distance to your family.
Yeah. That's true. That is true. Just because you're family, my favorite saying is family. You don't gotta like them, but you gotta love them. So,
yeah. True.
But tell me. And I know we had a chance to speak about this a little bit when we were actually in Indonesia, but tell me a little bit about, I guess, how your cave journey started, your overhead journey, and then tell me a little bit about because obviously there's a pretty well-known cave systems in Australia. So kind of tell me about how that started and, what pushed you into that.
So well known, it's hilarious because again, when you are in the shop and recreational diving, you hear whispers, but it's not super common knowledge or super well spread. The two things I started to hear, I think I was a dive master already or becoming a dive master. The two things I heard from people who were better in the water than me and who looked solid in the water were basic cave course, which is a cavern, which is the equivalent of the cavern course. So just a short segue, we have in Australia the CDA, the Cave Diving Association of Australia, and our club, it's a club basically, but we organize insurance and access. So it was in the 70s, we had a lot of cave fatalities. The government wanted to shut down cave diving completely. And so the CDA was formed, promising the right training and the right access so that those accidents wouldn't happen. And we are very fortunate that the last cave fatalities here are more than a decade away. So it's a solid system. It works. It really works. But we have our own instruction system. So it's similar to, cavern, intro and full cave, but it's a little bit different. And that's because of our dive site. So that the training is, of course, a little bit geared towards our own dive site. So our equivalent to cavern is called basic cave. And I heard, you do that to get good skills. The other one I heard is you do GUE funders to get good skills. We don't have a GUE facility. I think the next one is in Sydney. One of my friends now is a GUE instructor, and one day I will take my funders with him just because I want to know what I'm missing out. But the basic cave is in Mount Gambier. So Mount Gambier is a town halfway between Adelaide and Melbourne. It's 5 hours from both cities. And that's our accessible cave diving. So we have sinkholes there. We have beautiful sinkholes there. A huge cave that has like 8 Ks of line in it. It's a spider web and stuff in between. So it's not like, Sulawesi or Mexico, but it's fantastic cave diving. So I was a dive master. I decided I need to get those skills that everybody's talking about. And I signed up for my basic cave course. It was very challenging, not because of the skills, but because of the water temperature. the sinkholes there are 12 degrees and the caves is 14 year round. And also because, I was a dive master with, I don't know, maybe 300 dives, I would say, under my belt. And I thought, of course, I'm fantastic. And
Top of the world.
top of the world. Again, right? And of course, you're not. You suck. These days, I know I suck. Like, it doesn't matter at which level, I still suck. So I've accepted that. That's okay. But back in those days, so it was quite a challenging course, as I said, more mentally than anything else. But I managed to get through. I didn't get hooked straight away, but I was very proud of myself, of course. And then a couple of weeks later, we went out. So once you do that, you go there on your own. So the sites you are rated to dive, you can book then through the CDA or through whoever has, but basically through the CDA. And you can go and dive with a buddy. Like, you don't need a guide or a professional or whatever. So a couple of weeks later, we went back and we dove some glorious dive sites that got me fully hooked. I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
With the CDA and the basic cave, so for example, with like GUE, I'm not sure about other agencies or the I think UTD might be the same way, but I'm not sure about Interspace. But do you have to learn in a back mount configuration, or can you learn in a side mount configuration?
So no, you can do whatever. You can do both. I did. And that's another story. But I did it in back mount. I did my first two. So I believe GUE and UTT and Interspace, they have Cave 1 and Cave 2. Whereas most other agencies like TDI and INTD and NSCDS or whatever, they have 3 levels, okay? So the GUE Cave 1 is the equivalent of Cavern and Intro to Tech, I believe, roughly. And our system is a 3-tier system as well. So it is basic cave, which is like cavern. You have to see daylight when you turn around. It's a proper cavern zone. Our cave level is the equivalent of intro, which is like short penetrations, but no navigation and no restrictions. And then what we have advanced cave is the equivalent of full cave, which allows you to do whatever you want, with the bonus that we have to do it with one stage as well. Okay. So it's not a full stage cave course, but you have to show proficiency in using a stage simply because, like our best cave in Mount Gambier, Tank, you need sooner or later a stage for gas management, okay? It's too long to just dive on a set of 12s or whatever. You need a stage. As I said, that's why our training has aspects that are geared towards our environment here, right?
And that can be done in any configuration from the start.
So you can do it in any configuration you want to. However, at advanced cave level, so for the last course, you have to be able to take gear off, which I know people who have done it in back mount, but no thank you very much.
So that's got to be quite tough.
So there are tricks. So they have a clip on one shoulder strap which they can open up and they basically slide out.
Okay.
Like it's not that you have to do the whole Superman thing that you get your 12s over your head and push them forward. But so when I realized I'm going to do the full journey, I also knew that side mount is not something you can easily pick up yourself.
Yeah.
So my back mount, nobody taught me back mount. I watched a couple of Achim's videos or whatever, set up my twins, practiced shutdown drills, right? And the host setup and everything. It's super standard. So when I went to my basic cave course, I had maybe less than 10 dives on my twins. But it's nothing, I knew what trim is. I knew how to trim myself out back then. So 12s, you don't have to, it's harder, but like very side mount nowadays, I realize you need very, very good instruction. Like you need fantastic instruction. It's not rocket science, but it's a complicated system, and you have to know what you're doing.
Constant tinkering, there's always something. I was just literally just having this conversation, I think like a couple days or a few days, I can't even, very recently, where I was like, back mount, it's like you said, pretty standard, pretty simple to figure out. I feel like, I don't want to say it's simple, but it's simpler. Side mount, there's definitely a lot more to it, but I do feel that, especially in and this is from my very, very, very limited experience. So I'm not, I'm not the master over here, or I'm not, this is just from my experience. I don't have years in a cave. I don't even have 1 year in a cave. But I feel that it's just a better configuration. Like, you can see everything. It's right there. Your profile's a lot lower, and I've even adopted it in open water. I know there's the argument out there. It's only for full, or it's only for overhead environments. I don't really agree with that, but it's to each their own, right?
I was not a believer in side mount, to be honest, because of how complicated it is. And I also still am not, like, when I do a side mount course, it's like 4 more 5 days, right? It's a full-on course. And if people say, oh, they just want to do it recreationally, I say, are you sure about that? It's a commitment, right? It's not something that you just do and you do the course and afterwards you still suck. But for the overhead, you're absolutely right. Again, I know caves that are the sizes of, football fields, like huge tunnels, where they just scooter with 17 cylinders on them, to get to where they want to go. And for that, probably back mount is still better because you have more real estate, right? For me, I'm like getting old. Carrying those cylinders is just horrible. Like, the thing that I love most about side mount is if I can, gear up always in the water. Like, I hang my cylinders one by one, or I put them on the platform or whatever, and I walk into the water. And I prefer to walk into the water these days, not jump, because, again, I'm getting old. And it's just so much more civilized, right?
Oh,
it's like you take your time, and there's no weight on you.
Yeah, 100%. And I definitely agree with what you're saying, too, is the real estate on your back. I did, was it this past year? Yeah, this past year, I was doing side mount off of a boat, and it was a pain in the ass. There was waves. I was kind of over it. I was like, dude, this sucks. Threw on some back mount doubles. I was like, this is fucking way easier. This is so much better. It's just a lot simpler. It's the tool for the job. And
if you have people carrying them for you, then fantastic, right?
Yeah. But no, so when I was in Indo, there was he did it just to try it out. But this one guy, he did 6 cylinders side mount setup. And I was like, damn, that looks so bulky and just uncomfortable. And plus, he did the 6 cylinders, and then he had his chest mount rebreather on, and I was like, holy shit. So I saw him coming out of the water. I was like, that's a fucking. I'm like, what is that? And then I see it's a human with 6 cylinders, and I was like, holy shit. And I get that at that point, throw them on your back. You have all that real estate. It's easier. Then you could side mount the other tanks. But it is, at the end of the day, it's a tool for a job, and I completely understand that. But we're out just fun diving, essentially. It's like, do the configuration that you want to do.
You want to do. Like, and I was in, like, so we have a site here called Port Noarlunga, which is our bread and butter training site, like, 5-6 meters, super shallow, easy reef. And I was there the other day practicing on my breather, right? And as this guy comes up to me, is this a rebreather? And I was like, yes. That's a little bit over the top for here. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm practicing, man. What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? Like, I can only practice where I can kill myself? No, thank you very much.
I was very much in that boat. We were just kind of chatting about it a little bit before we started recording. Yeah, so I got certified, some of the listeners know out there, earlier this year. So I made the mistake of having a huge gap in between completing training and getting some final dives on the rebreather in to when I was able to get back on the rebreather. I didn't plan on having such a big gap, but it ended up that way. And literally I got to the shop. I was like, hey, I just need a day. I'm not even gonna get in the water. I need to put this unit back together. It's been too long. Let me make sure I'm doing everything right. And there was a little bit of a struggle the first, I'm still struggling. I'm not even going to lie. Even the last day, I'm like, I could get better on this. I could do this. And but I was having fun with it. And by the end, I felt a lot, I don't want to say comfortable, but I felt there was more confidence in my diving. I definitely feel I have a lot more to go. I think right now I'm probably about 35, 40 hours on the unit. So not a lot of time. Not a lot of time at all.
But still, more than me.
it's there's still so much to learn, but I need to close the gap to where it's like, okay, even to the point where I had to, It sucks because where I'm living now, it's going to be hard for me to find an O2 cylinder correct size or appropriate size to use, but I need to find something so at least I could get in the pool, like you're saying.
Just order one online, man.
Well, that's
Just
what I'm. No, I reached out, but it's not very easy. And then the O2 fill, I'd have to go.
Oh, the fill.
Yeah, I have to go to Kuala Lumpur just to find it, which is like 4 hours away a drive. So it's like logistically, it's not easy. But I need to get.
So you need
something.
a lot of cylinders. You need a lot of small cylinders and fill them all up. And like I understand, man. Like it's a pain in the butt if you don't have the support system around you. Like for me, I live in a city, 2 million people. We've got 3 major dive stores and a couple of small independents and blah, blah, blah. Yet when I go to Mount Gambier, everything is so easy. Everything is everywhere. Like I can pick up O2, I can pick up Sorb, I can literally walk into a place, send it to the text message. I know where the key is and grab whatever I want and then just pay him, right?
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. No, that's
Whereas
huge.
Here I have to go and like, oh, can you order this in maybe for me? And blah, 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 blah. So in Adelaide itself, we don't have depth. We do not have depth. We have like 30 meters max, right? There is one dive that you can do to 38, but it gets sharky there and people don't like to go there because they're afraid of sharks. So Adelaide is in a huge bay, like a couple 100 kilometers, but it's a bay, right? And then when you go down south, or maybe 100 and something kilometers, when you go down south, you have the open ocean that goes to Antarctica, right? And you get depth there, but that's challenging diving. And there is nobody who does that regularly. It's so weather dependent and blah, blah. So nobody dives that there. So we don't have the depth here. So therefore, all the technical people I know, they are cave divers in Mount Gambier, right? Because there, I've got sinkholes to whatever you want.
It is such a challenging thing, and even kind of like you're saying, like overkill, where it's like, okay, I'm going to be showing up to the pool with my rebreather and side mount. You know, I had to buy my own tanks here just because renting is not necessarily. Penang is an amazing place, not for diving though, and that's why I loved Ahmed, especially the bulk of the diving there is shore diving. So it's just
so easy.
So simple. You show up to the dive site. It's like, okay, I have everything I need to go. Just rock in the water, and it's just so nice. So what unit are you diving? So you just got certified on it?
So I did it completely differently. I did my first try dive, but I did a proper try dive in Ahmed as well on a chest-mounted unit. But it was a proper 1 day. Antoine did an hour in the pool, set me up properly, and then we did 2 90-minute dives. So I think I got a really, really good appreciation of the unit. And I actually really loved it. The problem is nobody's diving it in Australia. So
which unit?
The Triton.
Okay.
The Triton chest. So it's a mechanical unit. And then I did my certification in May on a Sidewinder, which is very similar to what you're diving. And it was a borrowed unit. You know the Sidewinder at the moment, Sidewinder 2 is coming out. Lead time is like forever. And I always said, so in my brain, I thought that's going to be the unit. I've been thinking about it like every, obsessive diver has been thinking about it for forever, talking to everybody, and you know how it is with rebreathers and blah, 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 blah. And then I said, okay, the Sidewinder is going to be it. And I wanted to wait for the 2. And the 2 never came, and it didn't come, and didn't come, and didn't come, and didn't come. And I had enough of it. So I borrowed a unit. And that's the cool thing about the CDA. It's like we are a club, and everybody, you reach out, and my instructor reached out. And JDZ, you had him on the show.
Yes.
So I borrowed his unit. Oh, he very, very graciously allowed me to abuse his unit. And I did my course on a Sidewinder. I did like 7 or 8 days. It was very easy to set up. I was very happy with my trim and with my work of breathing and everything, but I did not feel comfortable in it for overhead. Although I didn't do real overhead, but I felt like this is too much, right?
Really?
And I'm a big boy. And I'm a big boy, right? So we have done some fun stuff in Indonesia together.
I got video somewhere.
It's awesome, right? And I felt like I wouldn't be able to do those dives with the Sidewinder. If I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but I just felt like if I'm gonna squeeze through some of those restrictions, I'm gonna kill the unit, rip off parts of the head or whatever. because I'm a big boy, right? If you are the size of, Patrick or Robin or whatever, it doesn't matter what you wear because you're tiny, right? But for me, so then I knew that the wine is probably not going to be my number one unit. And then I went to Indonesia for a couple of months, as you know, and we dove. And then when I came back, I said to myself, I need a breather. Like I need to, so we did in Sulawesi, we've done 4-hour dives, open circuit with 4 cylinders. And I was like getting to the point, I was like, okay, I need a breather. This is not what's happening. And then really dear friend of mine here dragged me to, okay, segue. Our cave diving here, you have Mount Gambier, which is really accessible and civilized, and you've got gas and food and beds and blah 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 blah.
Civilized, I love it.
It's very civilized, yeah. The other big, and we've got caves all over the country, but everything besides that is painful. And our most amazing caves are in a place called the Nullarbor Plains and the Roe Plains, which is halfway between Adelaide and Perth. So it's a 2-day drive from here and a 1.5-day drive from Perth, and it's nowhere there's nothing. It's full on hardcore expedition style diving. In terms of the caves have been explored, but there's nothing there. You have to bring water. Like that's how it starts. You have to bring water. You have to bring energy. You have to bring everything, right? And every O-ring that goes, if you don't have it with you, that's it. And there is this unbelievable, spectacular cave system here called Orwogin, which I think is still one of the largest single entry underwater caves in the world. I think it has, don't quote me, 13 Ks of line in it.
Oh, wow.
It's just huge. So when I came back from Sulawesi, I had this trip planned, and a friend of mine, and I've never camped in my life before. Never, right? I was sheltered, brought up in Austria, where you go to B&B, like you go to bed and breakfast. You don't camp there. So my friend Matt and Simone, they dragged me out, literally held my hands, and it was horrible. I was horrible. I apologize because I never camped in my life before. But the diving was, man, it's just out of this world. Like it was just completely. It's like Lau Lau. It's unbelievable. So I was completely hooked, came back, and I knew I needed a unit because Matt did a dive there to the end of the line, and that was a 5-hour return trip on scooter on a breather. He did 3-hour open circuit dives there and got nowhere, like the beginning. You know what I mean? It's just, swimming, of course, not with the scooter. So anyway, I came back. I knew, I need a breather. And I said to myself, whatever comes up, I'm going to grab it. I knew I want a mechanical unit, and it was either the Triton or the Sidekick, which is a true side mount unit. It's a KISS unit as well. I think they don't make it at the moment.
They discontinued making them?
At the moment, I think everything is in the Sidewinder 2 basket. They don't make anything else.
Okay.
From what I understand, like I don't know about what goes on in the KISS world, but from what I understand, like the chest-mounted unit, the new one has been sourced out, obviously. Doesn't belong to KISS. KISS, the only thing you hear is Sidewinder 2, Sidewinder 2, Sidewinder 2, Sidewinder 2.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if you can get a classic. I don't know. But the Sidekick, I know you can't get, like you can't even order at the moment. So we were 6 people in Orwogin, and the 3 of us who were together, like Matt is on a Sidekick, and Simone is also Sidewinder trained but didn't have a unit, and me, right? And then this dude is selling 2 Sidekicks. Like, what are the chances in Melbourne, right? So I was like, Simone, you wanted a unit? And she says, yes. And I was like, we bought both units. Like, it's hilarious. It's like, I mean, what are the chances, right? What are the chances that you get? It's just, mind-blowing. But the universe sometimes just tells you, just shut up. Just shut up and get onto the program, right? Like, because I was still thinking, side mount unit, and what do you do for bailout and blah, like all these questions, right? And I'm super fortunate because I've got people around me. So the Sidekick is actually super popular here for cave diving. I know a handful of people who dive it. So I've got people who around me, and Matt, we set up the unit. I had yesterday new loop hoses arrive, and today new hoses arrive and everything. So the unit is taking shape now, and I've got the official crossover course at the beginning of January. And
okay.
I'll do my motor, but I'm practicing in the water because I'm rebreather trained. So I'm not practicing. I'm just trying to get it in trim, and get the hoses correct and all that sort of stuff. So that when I get onto the course, I can concentrate on not dying, right? Because those are the real important skills, right?
The not dying. It's a little tidbit, but no, I completely agree with the just practicing, because that was my biggest thing. Why I set aside time. I was hoping to get to Ahmed earlier, but I was like, I need to go there, just spend a month, take some time, just dive rebreather every day.
So you dove every day. A month every day rebreathing, Ahmed. Cool.
Not every day, but I didn't dive any other. I didn't do open circuit once. There was a few days off here and there, a few hungover days. Which, it was. There was 2 days in particular where it was just really, really bad. It was nice because I was breaking down the unit, putting together the unit, tinkering with the unit. Just like, okay, let me tweak this a little bit. Let me tweak that a little bit.
Your unit, is it electronic or is it a mechanic as well?
It's an MCCR. It's
an MCCR as well.
So it's funny because diving, there were some Choptima divers there. There was a XCCR diver there. Mm-hmm. There might have been one other unit that was diving, but it was kind of interesting to see, because right now all I know is MCCR. I don't know ECCR. I obviously know the concept. I know the idea. I know it's out there. Me, it's all MCCR. So it was kind of interesting to see. Oh, Revo. Obviously, there was a lot of Revo divers. But it was very interesting to see, you don't constantly have to fuck with that. You don't constantly have to.
But also breaking down and stuff like that. I mean, like I remember the sidewinder was like the side kick. It's so simple. Like the first time. The first time when I got the unit and it's like, where's the counterlung? And so the bag. So I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like a tube. It's a metal tube on your side. It's like a small cylinder size, and the counterlung is that metal tube, right? So you have a plastic bag sitting, and it's like, what? How does that work? Like, mind-blowingly simple. And it says inhale and exhale, like the two towers. Like one says inhale and one says exhale. So it's really like done for idiots like me. It's like perfect. You can't do it wrong. Like it's almost impossible to do it wrong if you do your negative positive and you turn on. So I was doing a dive and I was thinking and I texted my friend and said, if I do a negative and positive and I turn on my O2 and I'm in 6 meters of water, I can't die. Is that correct? And he goes, no, you can't. It's like, it's not like...
No, that's actually a huge thing too. When I was going through training, I remember I was very overwhelmed. I did a couple tri dives on some units, not the Gemini is what I dived, the Fathom Gemini. I did a few tri dives, not on some other units like I was saying, and I remember I was very overwhelmed going into the course because I'm like, basically got the box of all these different parts wrapped up. I'm like, dude, what is all this stuff? But by the second day of the course, I just remember being like, wow, this is very simple. Like, it's not overly complicated for my brain to put together. And that's why I really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, it took me a little bit, not a little while, but a short period, a couple of hours just to make sure, like, oh, okay, this is how it goes together. Does it go like this? Oh, yeah, no. And it's super simple. Like you said, it's fairly simple. So that's why I really, really enjoy the unit. But I actually just wanted to chat about
segue.
Yeah, what you were mentioning before, how we met in Indonesia.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think I had mentioned it. Well, I'm pretty sure I'd mentioned it at some point. I don't know if you remember. But so the cool thing about the Indonesia trip, which was fucking phenomenal, by the way, like such a good group of people. I had such an amazing time. Robin, TP, that's your name, right? TP, you. Like, it was such a, amazing, and then the other group of people that showed up. But I remember I was so nervous hopping on the plane, going there, because that was actually my first cave trip outside of the training scope, right? So I did a lot of dives in between training and after training when I was in Mexico, but I was always kind of, I don't want to say under the supervision of my instructors, but they were always there. I knew that like I could lean on them if I needed to, right? So here I am showing up to Indonesia. I'm like, okay, the skills are truly being put to the test, and fucking phenomenal, dude. I had such a good time there. And
you were awesome, man. You were awesome.
Oh, dude, it was so amazing. And I remember you were talking about like going through restrictions and stuff, and you know me, I was like very hesitant. I was like, okay, like this is very new to me. Like let me practice. And I had so much fun. That one video that I got, it's like awesome. So much fun, and it was so much fun to like build that comfort and confidence in a good setting, a good group of people. But I remember we were, Robin was in a course, so we were kind of just doing our own thing. And we got to the end of the line kind of one point.
Oh, yeah.
Squeezed to the
Our exploration dive, right?
Oh, my God. I was like sitting there like, holy shit, dude. I get what you're saying about, like, you could have not gone through there with a sidewinder. Like you
I could not.
Like,
I could.
There was
way.
no way it would have happened. And
but with a sidekick, I could, because it's the same. Like I've got one cylinder on one side.
It's like an AL80. Yeah. It's
but I can take off the AL80, and then I've got only the other AL80 or whatever on my other side. So that's exactly. So that restriction is actually one of them, and the one in Labun Kari, I don't know if you remember the double restriction, where you can either walk over the sump or go around the double restriction. So that one, I don't know if you remember, but Robin said because Robin has a Sidewinder and a Triton, and he said to me that he tore the head off on his Sidewinder going through that restriction.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
Yeah, because there is, I don't know if you remember, but there is so it's not a bad restriction, but it's like this arrow rock coming down, so you have to squeeze through underneath that, and that whatever rips it off. So, and I thought, like, if Robin, and he's like a third of my size, if he does that, those things played on my mind. Coming back to your experience, so when I did my advanced cave or my last cave course, I was still working in a shop. So I did that before summer. I worked throughout the whole summer, and I had booked Sulawesi for May. And I've felt exactly like you do, like shit, and I've got no experience. Unbeknown to me, my two full cave instructors had booked on at the same time. And I get a message from Robin. It's like, I've got this couple from Australia, and is it okay if you dive with them? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, like, this Linda and Gary guy, and do you know them? And I was like, what? These are... Ask them if it's okay for me to because I was so nervous ruining their trip. Like, I thought, shit, I'm going to be this baby there, and then when I want to do all these cool dives, and I'm going to be just, holding them back, and like I started texting them, is it really okay for me to come? And am I not really? And they were so nice. I mean, I love them like they are. I love both of them so much. And they were so awesome to me. And Robin, of course, as well. Like, he can be so awesome. He can be so, like, don't worry, dude, and you'll be right, and we're slowly going to do that. And, like, and at the end of that trip, I did my first 3-hour dive with Robin. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So it's like awesome.
Yeah, I loved it out there so much. And because obviously that was my first cave trip outside of training, and I absolutely loved it. And I remember leaving Mexico. I obviously heard of Sulawesi. I knew of Robin. I knew that there's exploration going on there, because you go to Mexico is fucking phenomenal. Like, absolutely. I
still haven't.
Back to my saying very limited experience. I haven't been. There's caves all over the world. Mexico it was such a great place. I haven't been to Florida. I haven't been to Europe. There's just caves everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And I fucking loved the fact, like, when I first showed up to Bao Bao, and then we go over to Muna, I was like, dude, this is fucking awesome. And it's obviously not in my backyard, but it's a hell of a lot closer than Mexico, right? And I was like, dude, the caves here are phenomenal. A little bit, I don't want to say uncivilized. Obviously, it's a little bit more logistically difficult than Mexico, where you literally just pull up to the cenote, unload your gear, hop in. It's basically this. I don't want to say the same in Sulawesi, but it's a little bit more of a exploration feel to it, right?
So what I didn't realize my last trip, this time, of course, I fully realized it is absolutely exploration style diving because you have nothing there. But Robin does such a fantastic job, and the boys, of course, to take away all that from you. So you rock up there. There's gas and there's cylinders and there's porters and amazing lunches, and people walk you to the side of the hole and give you your gear, and you gear up in the water, and you do not realize what a phenomenal job this guy has done to make it accessible for people like you and me, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
So, and this time, because I spent 2 months with him, I realized, man, every time an O-ring goes and one of the customers says, oh, my blah, 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 do you have one? And they go and dig it out and give it to him or her, what it actually means logistically, that has to be ordered in from God knows where. And it has to come to Bao Bao. And from Bao Bao, it has to be brought over to... So what he's done an amazing job, and people, it's unbelievable to go there and just rock up with your suitcase with your normal cave diving gear and just go for dive for a week or two or whatever, and you think like, oh, it's just like my normal diving holiday. What he has to do in the background to make that happen is just like, I've got so much respect for him. But yeah, it's awesome, man. Like, you've got the porters, you've got the food, you've got like it's super civilized. What do you mean uncivilized?
No. Well, I didn't mean uncivilized. Like, that's what I was saying. I didn't want to use that word. But like, you were just talking about camping. So growing up, we actually, did quite a bit of camping, out in nature. My pops was pretty good about taking us out there. You couldn't drag me out there these days. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to camp. Like, let's stay in a hotel. Like, let's nice comfortable bed. So it's funny going over to Muna. It's like, okay, was it Kadena? Yeah, glamping. And I'm like, I'd never been glamping before. I'm like, what is this glamping? I know camping. I don't know glamping. And dude, that place is fucking awesome. Like the bed, like you were saying, you were telling me before we got there, like a most comfortable bed. And I was like, dude, it's a tent. Like, how good can it be? And you get there, and I'm like, holy shit. This is not even like, why do they even call it glamping? Like, this place is amazing. The food was amazing. The lodging was amazing. They have their own house cave. And that's why I said, I didn't mean uncivilized, so I apologize. I retract that statement.
No.
But it's just like, I guess, like a little bit, because in Mexico, it's like you literally just basically pull up to the cenote. There's like all these accommodations around, they just build these elaborate, just not lodging, but, some of them have restaurants. Some of them have, just it's very different. Like there was one of the place that we went to where it was basically like a big open, where we had to kind of swim across the pond. We had to jump in, swim across the pond.
Moco.
And then,
Moco right there. Yeah.
That was kind of like, I remember
Mexico.
when we were going out there, I'm like, man, this is like middle of nowhere kind of, but it's such a beautiful scenic area, this little paradise. We're driving through, dirt roads for a little bit, and it opens up to this like just amazing, I wouldn't call it a sinkhole, but like, yeah, I fucking loved Sulawesi, and I'm looking forward to my return. What are you heading out there next?
So my year is starting to shape up pretty crazy. So in January I'm doing rebreather basically for the first half year of January, and then I'm gonna go to the Philippines on a boat with my lovely wife, and I'm gonna dive single back mount. Can you imagine that, Nick? Single back. I don't know where my gear is. I have to go and dig it out, and I hope the bladder still holds air. But we're gonna go on a shark trip, so I'm pretty cool. And then in March, Nullarbor or Vaughan is on the cards again, dude. So I came back. I bought a breather. I bought a 4-wheel drive because I didn't drive this time. My friend had me, but like I'm gonna get a like I'm completely hooked and committed to that sort of diving now. I hate the camping, but you got to do what you have to do. No, man, but you have to do what you have to do. I always thought that I hate caving. Some of the caves, there is one cave, for example, you have to do a 50-meter crawl on your belly and like literally head to your side to get to the water. And you have to do that in your dry suit, and your tanks, like it's a nightmare. And if you had told me that a year ago, I would have said, why would anybody want to do that? I'm getting organized for an SRT course. Like, yeah, it is what it is. You have to do what you have to do to get the dives you want to get, right? And then we go to Austria, and then Oztec. We have Oztec as well. Are you coming to Oztec?
I'm gonna try. Is that March?
That's March,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna actually try to make it to that because
come.
there's a lot of good speakers.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to make it out there.
Yeah, man. Like, if you like, obviously we can organize offline then. Diving and stuff like that if you want. So Robin is coming as well. Then I go to Austria. So I can't do before May, but I feel like it's gonna be, that's when I want to go. And then I've got people who want to go with me probably in September. But the year is shaping up crazy, but I need to go. And I don't want to go there for a week. I want to go there and
can't.
Yeah, I can't. After 2 months, like, it's like I need to go there for at least a month, right? So
I was just about to say minimum 1 month. Like, it's it's funny that you mentioned the dry caving. So I obviously had never done any caving at all before I became a cave diver, and after I became a cave diver, it started kind of opening my eyes up to like, oh, there's a lot of dry caves everywhere. And we basically went caving in Vietnam, dry caving. It was this phenomenal fucking trip. Vietnam has beautiful caves. The largest caves, I think it's the largest cave, not cave system, or it might be system. I'm still trying to grapple around the definitions. But this huge, massive cave, Sun Dong, we didn't go in there, but we were in a system that was either connected to there or in that area. Absolutely amazing. Completely opened up my eyes to just dry caving to the point where through Robin made some connections in Malaysia. I'm hopefully going to take an SRT course in January at some point just because, I'm trying to further, which is funny because same thing. If you would have asked me before I went to that Mexico trip, would I ever do caving? I'd be like, yeah, I'm good. Like, let's go. Let's go find a reef somewhere. Now I'm trying to crawl into just some. I did a little bit. What's funny is when I was in Sulawesi, I went to the opposite side of where Robin is. Robin's on the east side of South Sulawesi.
Yep.
I did some diving on the west side of South Sulawesi. Phenomenal, super, just beautiful place. But they had some dry caves there, and there was literally a dry cave at the resort we were staying in. She's like, oh, yeah, there's a cave on the property, and you point, it's this little tiny hole. I'll have to – did I send you – I sent you the video, right? Yeah. And, dude, I crawl in there, and I'm like, dude, I got to go check this out. And – I was like hooked, but I'm still so new that I'm like, I can't just go crawling into some hole in the middle of Indonesia. Like, I don't know about the poisonous snakes, the spiders, whatever the fuck that could be in there. So I'm just like...
And for me, it's the same thing about, like, it's like the same thing as with cave diving, Can I turn around? Like, do I have to push myself out?
No, exactly.
Yeah. To be honest, for me, it's still like the dangling carrot of water has to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure if I would go on a caving trip, a pure caving trip. I'm not sure if it would be. I mean, I'm starting to open up for that, I admit. But at the moment, if you ask me, I was like, yes, but there has to be some water somewhere involved where I can go for a dive. But I understand what you're saying, man. Like it opens up your world view or perception or whatever. Other thing, how's your instructing going? Are you doing anything or?
I have taken a huge hiatus, which I'm bummed out about, and it's funny too because the time of year to renew, the agencies are asking for their money, so
it hurts, man.
And dude, and that's the thing. So right now, I am under two agencies, SDI and Patty.
Me too.
And I'm not gonna lie, man. I was like, shit. Like I renewed the last 2 years. I haven't taught, but I'm like, I should renew, and I'm like, should I renew? Because I'm not in an area where I could teach openly, and I'm like, okay, is this something that I know eventually I want to get back into it, but it's just tough because I'm like, fuck, I don't want to, it's almost, it's just, I'll end up paying it before the end of the year. I will. Probably 1. I'm not going to go 2, which sucks because, like, I don't know if the Patty thing has just become, like, a nostalgic think, not nostalgic, that's the wrong word for it, but I'm like, that was, that's how I became an instructor. Like, I want to hold on to that one. I know a lot of people hold on to it. I went and did the crossover to SDI, and I was like, oh, I kind of like them. I want to go down that route. But it's just, so right now,
hard,
no, I'm
right?
not teaching. It is, and
It's
I would
hard,
like to get back into it. It's something that I'm very, very much like, it's always been in the back, not even in the back of my mind. It's been in the middle. Like, okay, forward or backwards, right? Like, so it's there. I need to figure that out. I definitely need to get on the ball. And as far as 2025, I have a few things planned. We'll see what happens. I know that regardless of if I'm teaching, I already know that I have a few courses that I want to take for myself. And actually, one of them is back with Robin. I know he's headed home for Christmas, so I was going to try to maybe get out there in January. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I know at some point in 2025, I will be out in Sulawesi, and I will be doing some sort of training with him. And then I might try to do some more training in Bali. I'm not 100% sure. And then, like I said, SRT course. So I know that my education is I'm going to further my education, but as far as furthering other people's education under my flag, I don't know if that will happen this year. But who knows? Who knows?
So I'm trying to become a CDA instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done half the work already. So with the CDA, you have to do two full internships per level. So I've done one internship. I'm trying to organize the second one and then start to teach basic cavern. That's the goal for this year. Go more down that route. It's just because I've spent more time in freshwater these days than I do in salt, so it makes sense. And then take people also trying to do their side mount and stuff like that beforehand, so they don't come to you, because that's one of the things I see. You get people rocking up in side mount, but it's a front mount, back mount, whatever it is, and trying to do that properly from the get-go, so you have an easier cave course, right?
No, for sure. I'm excited to hear about the single tank experience. It's been a long time for you, so that'll be
I don't know if like my rigs are cannibalized. They're all like stage rigs now. So it's good.
That Bira trip that I took, that was the first time I did single tank back mount last year. Because everything has been I've been heading down that technical route, overhead route. So it's all been side mount or back mount doubles. So it was nice. It was fun. It's easy.
It's fun. It's easy.
It's easy. It's simple. Yeah. It's like there's nothing there. You jump in, you have a good time.
Yeah. And if you have a failure, then tough luck.
Yeah.
Just do a what do we call a controlled emergency.
Yeah. CISA. Just grab everybody's octo. Well, shit, man. Let me throw out one last question for you before I let you go. So, somebody that is, say they're just coming out of their, actually whatever level they're coming out of, basically they're in search for their next instructor. What is the best piece of advice that you could give to somebody that is looking for their next instructor and they know that they want, I don't want to say have more thorough training, they just know that they want something more? What's the best piece of advice that you could give for somebody in search of their next instructor?
And that's personally my belief, but your instructor should be more or less teaching full-time and should be doing the dives you want to do for themselves for fun. Okay, so because there are instructors out there who do it part-time and don't do any diving, and that's like, or go on one dive trip a year or whatever. All their diving is instructive. I don't think that's very healthy. You start to lose other skills. Then there are instructors who, as we discussed at the beginning, teach courses that they don't necessarily really dive themselves. Let's say technical instruction, and they do technical dives for themselves once a year or so. Find people who really dive, are passionate about diving, and are passionate about the diving you want to achieve, right? So at an entry level, you don't need to find a technical instructor, although it can't hurt. But find somebody who goes diving themselves. Like find somebody who goes in their spare time in your area diving, or who goes on trips, and not just once a year, but a reasonable amount of time. And with technical training, find people who are cave divers themselves and who in their spare time go cave diving, who in their spare time go rebreather diving, deco diving, whatever you want to achieve. Find those people, because that's a skill level that you can't just pick up, or you can't just, I did this and that 20 years ago. You diminish. When you go cave diving for a month or two, your skill level is pretty schmick. You stop cave diving for a month and you go there for the first day, it's nowhere near that. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the reality. And that's with everything. It's not diving, it's with everything. So find people who do it all the time for themselves and for teaching. Those are the instructors you wanna have. You need both. People who only instruct, that's also very dangerous, because they stop to see the real diving. They just go, the skill sets and whatever you have to teach. And they're probably spectacular at teaching those skills, but they forget the reality. A dive course is, for me, always has two components. It has the skills you have to learn, but it also the mindset and the reality of life, right? What really happens when you go on a dive. And so you need instructors who can teach you both of those things. Go find those people, and don't be afraid to travel. You might not find what you're looking for in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere where there is one dive shop with one instructor, right? That person can't teach you everything. That's not possible. Yeah. It's not, your cave instructor might not be the best person to go and learn how to dive to 100 meters in the ocean on a wreck. They might be able to do that, but you have to find the people who really love what they teach. Another great example for me is dry suit. We were talking a bit, was that off or online, that I like to dive dry here, because the warmest water is 21, 22, and in winter gets down to 12 degrees. I love to dive dry here. I know so many dry suit instructors who hate dry suit diving. Yeah, they love going to the tropics and dive in 32 degree water, and that's fair enough. That's I don't, there's no problem with that. But you shouldn't be teaching dry suit. You should go to a dry suit instructor who actually loves their dry suit and who wants to go dry suit diving. You should go to a sideman instructor who loves his sideman. He's not like, if I could, I would go with my twins because they're so much easier to put on. Yeah, it's true. But then you shouldn't be teaching sideman. If you go to a no mount cave class and learn how to push through tiny restrictions, you shouldn't take that from somebody who loves to go through high flow, huge caves in Florida. That's what they love with the DPV, right? You have to always find the person who actually does what they are teaching. I learned that from Robin. Well, that was for me an eye-opener. He teaches cave and he dives cave.
Kind of the best way to put that is you're looking for an instructor who's teaching from experience rather than teaching from a book. Take a course from Robin. He's teaching you how to survive in a cave, because essentially that's what it is. You're
exactly,
getting in, you're getting out, and that's what he's doing. No, that's an amazing piece of advice, dude. And I think a lot of people take that for granted, and that's why I always tell people, interview, talk to your instructor, sit down, chat with them, because sometimes you might not know where you want to go, but
just go for a coffee. Interview is such a big word, but go for a coffee. Go for a dive. If I have students that I said to them, let's go for a dive before anything else. We have to see where we are.
Yeah.
I think interview sounds. For me, interview sounds a bit formal and sounds a bit
you're right.
scary. Just go for a chat, have a coffee, have a beer, whatever your beverage of choice is. Just chat and see if... Also, I'm a big believer in, and that's not diving, it's everything. A great instructor is not necessarily a great instructor for you, right? Yes, there are spectacular instructors out there who can adapt to their students. And that's the probably highest art of teaching. And we all aspire to be there, but the reality is that most people teach in a certain way, and that might work very well for some students, but that might not work very well with other students, and you have to find that out. And I know the higher up you go, the harder it is, because the less instructors there are anyway, and then finding the right one, it's even harder. From experience, I've done so many courses that I look back upon, I want my money back, dude. Actually, I want your name deleted from my card. Like, it's embarrassing for me to have that name on my card because it's so bad. But I didn't know. Back then, if you had asked me, I would have said, the best course ever, the best instructor, blah, 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 you know. And that's really hard because you are going to somebody to... And I said it to students as well. If you come to a course and you rock, you're on the wrong course.
Yeah.
Right? You have to come on a course and suck because you want to learn something. You're here to learn something. I hear so many people trying to prepare themselves for courses, right? And I go like, the only way to prepare yourself for a course is to have the prerequisites of that course. You have to be good on those, right? You don't have to start to learn to lay a line before you go to your first cave course. That's what your instructor is there for. You have to have a decent trim and buoyancy, right? And you have to know how to dive the system you're diving. But the line laying and the visibility stuff, and that's why you go to that course and to learn it from the instructor. So don't over prepare yourself. So yeah, it is what it is, man. But we have to strive to make it better. And as I said, I need cave buddies. So that's my biggest motivation in teaching is like I need future cave buddies. I need more people to go cave diving with. So because you're too far away, man.
I know. Well, but we're at least we're not half, not in the Americas. But on that note, I'm actually gonna change the way that I approach people to bring them onto the podcast. Instead of interview, I'm gonna say a conversation. I don't want to intimidate people away.
Interview sounds.
Yeah. But
So
Faz, man, I absolutely appreciate you joining the podcast today. This has been awesome. I look forward to the next time that we're able to meet up and hopefully we could do something in 2025. Hopefully I can make it out to Oztech. I'm really going to push for that just because amazing speakers. I mean, I've been hearing about Oztech for it was a thing and then it stopped and then it came back. I think COVID kind of slowed everything down.
We had COVID like everywhere in the world. Yeah.
But no, I will definitely meet up at some point in 25, and hopefully we can get into an overhead environment and go through some restrictions.
Awesome, man. Can't wait to dive with you again, Nick. And thank you very much again for having me.
Offgassing, a scuba podcast.